The 8-9 game in the East region features Mississippi State out of the SEC and Baylor out of the Big 12, both teams getting an at-large. Both teams having pretty up and down seasons, I would say. Baylor having much higher expectations than Mississippi State coming into the year, but right from night one, Baylor got whooped off the court. Um, I just don't see this game. This is a game that's pretty annoying, I would say. It's one of those 8-9 games that I don't look forward to at all. I don't really particularly like watching either team here. Um, However, I do think this game is going to be played with some pretty good pace. Both teams get a lot of shots up. Both teams play, I think they take over 60 shots a game apiece, both top 60 in the country, top 70 in the country. But like Mississippi State, pretty inefficient. They have what I like to call Wade Taylor, the fourth junior. Josh Hubbard, he's their little point guard, 5'11", maybe. They list him at 5'11". I don't know if he's even that, but he's a chucker. He can get going with the best of them, but he's also very capable of throwing up some tour dates. And for those of you that don't know what a tour date is, I'm sorry. I'd recommend looking into that. But I don't really get excited by this game at all. Like VJ Edgecombe is good enough maybe to win this game for Baylor, but I don't particularly like the matchup for Baylor simply because Mississippi State likes to get all over the offensive glass. They average 13 offensive rebounds a game. Baylor, especially now, much smaller. They've struggled on the defensive glass a little bit. I don't really know what to make of this game because I think both teams, quite frankly, aren't very good, and whoever wins this game is just setting themselves up to lose to Duke in the second round. But I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a game with two extremely similar teams. I mean, you could consider them more offense heavy, which is a bit weird to say about a Chris Jans team that they always lean on defense. But he tried to address that this year with adding like Claudel Harris and Riley Kugel. He was trying to create a more balanced team, and it did work to an extent. Like their offense is like a top 30 unit in the country, but it's at the expense of their defense kind of falling off. And I don't think the offense really moves the needle enough. They don't shoot it all that well. They're 295th in the country in 3-point percentage. And I think this is a game that Baylor could potentially zone them to death. I know they're probably going to get killed on the glass, or Baylor's going to get killed on the glass anyway. So why not just play the 1-1-3 zone that Scott Drew loves to play when his defense isn't really clicking? And I think it's actually a pretty good strategy against this team. It can take away the pick and roll game of Josh Hubbard. That's what they love to play through. So I actually think schematically, I think it kind of works out for Baylor. And I kind of trust Baylor's guards on the offensive end against this Mississippi State defense that has like this guard group for Mississippi State is pretty weak. You know, that trio of Hubbard, Harris, and Kugel is just they give up so many dribble drives, and I think it can really break down their defense. And then when they have to throw more defensive lineups on the floor with, throw RJ Melendez out there a little more often, throw Sean Jones out there a little more often, it kind of turns into an old Chris Jans offense. So I just don't think they have really a combination that's necessarily going to work and like allow them to reach their ceiling. And Baylor, yeah, they're super small up front, but they're going to get Langston Love back most likely again. He was dealing with another ankle injury, or probably to the same ankle, obviously. But I think they have enough shooting in this game with him back. Edgecombe has been shooting the ball much better since the beginning of the season in league play. He looked like one of the best guards in the entire country for a stretch. And obviously we're pretty high on that freshman group, Edgecombe and Rob Wright, who you love, obviously. And I think he's a great player. I think they're going to be able to take care of the ball well enough against this Mississippi State defense that basically lives off of turning teams over. They don't really create much value in any other areas. So I actually like Baylor. I don't think I like them enough to like say emphatically, yeah, they're going to win this game, and I'm probably not going to have any money on it. But I do like Baylor to move on, and probably get thrashed by Duke.
Yeah. I think I do like the Baylor guards, especially with Love coming back. They do. I think they're shooting the ball at what, like 36, 37% from three. And Mississippi State allows a pretty high percentage from three as well. I forget the number, but I think it's in the mid to upper 30s.
Yeah, 36 with a 44% three-point rate allowed. So
Yeah.
Baylor's probably going to be able to hit 12, 13 threes.
Right. I worry a little bit about back to Baylor on the glass. I worry about O'Meara potentially getting in foul trouble because the options, and we've talked about this with Baylor plenty over the course of the season, right? Especially with Ojanwuna out. O'Meara, if he's in foul trouble early, especially, they don't really have anywhere else to turn. So that zone, I think that's a great point by you that they're going to have to go to. But the toughest thing about playing a zone is rebounding out of it. So, I think Mississippi State is definitely going to be making a point to crash the glass and pick up those extra possessions and get to the foul line because, Baylor just doesn't have that front court depth. So O'Meara's going to have to play disciplined here. But with that discipline, he's also going to be aggressive because they need him on the glass. But it's going to be a really big game, I think, for some of these guards to come in and chip in on the glass. Because if they don't, then I think that they could get smoked there. And it doesn't even matter what they do on the offensive end if they give up 20 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, another thing, they don't really have a matchup for Cam Matthews. So when they're playing man-to-man and they're kind of switching everything, is what they typically like to do just to take away their poor ball screen defense. They can kind of force Hubbard to give up the ball or play in isolation. If they switch and Cam Matthews is guarded by, I don't know, Jeremy Roach, like you're not really going to have much of a chance. And their rotations at times have been just non-existent. I just don't think they not that they don't know what they're doing half the time. It's just like there's a lot of late rotations, especially like when a small is on a big and they just don't get there in time. Like that's kind of inexcusable. You need to identify that mismatch when you're switching everything and you're switching everything. So I think Cam Matthews is a potential mismatch issue along with Keyshawn Murphy. Like they're pretty similar players, versatile bigs that can guard on the perimeter as well. So I still like Baylor regardless. I think they schematically it works out for them.
Yeah. I think this will be a competitive game. I think it's a game that likely goes down to the wire-ish. I could see it being within, a couple possessions late, one way or the other. Like you said, I don't necessarily feel strong enough to give a confident pick, at least not this early in the week. I could see this going either way. To me, it's one of those 8-9 games we get every year that feels like a coin flip.
For sure. Yeah, there's always one 8-9 game that I just don't really care about all that much. And if I were to pick one, it's probably this one. But
yeah,
obviously every single game is a super fun game, regardless of what the implications are. Like they're going to move on and most likely lose to Duke. So yeah, but either way, definitely excited to watch it regardless.
Yeah. So yeah, this 8-9 game in the East region, really just a date to set themselves up for a thrashing by Duke.